The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement will officially be operational today. The agreement will see Africa establishing a single market of more than 1.2 billion people. This comes at a time when the United Kingdom has ceased to be a member of the EU. The outgoing AU Chair President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended Africa for making history.
We're just a few hours away from the birth of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will fundamentally change the economic fortunes of our continent. It is the start of a new era of trade between African countries, when the continent will produce the goods and services it needs, when its economies will grow, economies will industrialize and also diversify, when it will realize the great potential of its abundant natural and human resources. I call on the entrepreneurs of our nation to seize the abundant opportunities that this historic development will present to explore new markets and build new partnerships and new businesses. This is an opportunity to empower the women of Africa through special trade arrangements, through financial inclusion, and also preferential access to government and private sector procurement processes. South Africa's chairship of the African Union is now coming to an end, just as we also end our term as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Through these important bodies, we have championed the cause of peace and development, not only in Africa but across the world. We have worked to strengthen the multilateral institutions that are so necessary for global cooperation and for the sustainable development of all nations.
Well, for more on this story, we're now joined on the line by SABC News Foreign Editor Sophie Mokoena. Thank you very much, Sophie, for joining us. So what is the significance of the African Continental Free Trade Area?
I think it is very significant in a sense that it now seals the whole process of the transformation of the African continent. Because when the Organization of African Unity was established by people like Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Julius Nyerere, and many others, that would include the former president of the ANC, O.R. Tambo, who was there on the sideline because then South Africa was still under the apartheid rule and the ANC was in exile, but it was participating on the sidelines of international events to influence and mobilize nations to support the struggle of the black majority in South Africa. That now we're moving towards the economic emancipation, because all along the focus was on the political emancipation, dealing with the political impact of the colonialism and apartheid, attaining freedom. And therefore we then changed to the AU, African Union, uniting Africa to deal with political matters and economic matters, but really focusing on the development of the continent. And therefore the founders of the African Union that was established in Durban, that was actually the transformation of the OAU, where it was chaired for the first time by the former President Thabo Mbeki, had different task team and working groups, and finally establishing different agencies. Among them was NEPAD. The intention was to focus on the development of the continent. And now we are seeing the results of that in terms of the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, because it has been the dream of our forebears to unite the continent, not only at political level, cultural level, but also at trade level.
Yeah, of course, it's very important, like you say, trade level, economics and all of that. But at a practical level, is Africa actually ready for this new dispensation, given the fact that one of the things that we suffer with on the continent is a lack of industrialization? It's all very well to create an avenue for people to trade, but what are people going to be trading?
It is going to be very difficult, but if there is a political will, particularly from leaders themselves and business on the continent and the ministers of trade and industry taking a lead, it will be possible to make some achievements, but it is not going to be easy. It is definitely not going to be easy. As you have pointed out, how many countries are well developed in terms of industries, and even those countries that used to pride themselves about industries. With all the changes that we have seen, most of the industries have kind of died, and we have to rebuild now. I mean, South Africa is a case in point. Pre-1994, there were many industries, but today those factories are idling. We have to go and rebuild. And when the president and the outgoing chair of the AU is talking about using the natural resources and human resource, that's exactly that. Let us beneficiate on the continent. Let all this raw material leave our shores being fully processed. Let us sell the rings, the chains. Let us sell those, with platinum, every car that is around the world needs a smaller portion of platinum. Let's manufacture those parts. Cobalt, let's manufacture the cell phone, because every cell phone has got a cobalt. So I think if there can be a political will with the young population, we will be able to turn things around.
Yeah, the picture that you paint is a very exciting one, and like you say, one that should be able to come to fruition if there's political will to do so. But just in terms of the actual structure that we're going to have, does this mean that this could be a precursor for more freedom of movement among Africans in general? We do see that the United Kingdom has decided to withdraw out of the EU, for example, and that's going to have impacts in terms of free movement of people there.
That's exactly what is supposed to happen. But of course, there will be challenges, and you will have to deal with that. The movement of people, goods and services, and the tariffs, you have to deal with all that. But I think leaders will be able to find a way or to put a framework to deal with those challenges.
And one last thing before I let you go, the infrastructure at our ports right across, from Cape to Cairo, is that sufficiently ready for us to get an efficient system to get African goods moving up and down the continent?
It is a problem. I mean, the intention to rebuild infrastructure on the continent, be it rail or road, it has been something that the AU was supposed to focus on, and the former president of South Africa, President Jacob Zuma, then was tasked with that responsibility. Now South Africa is supposed to continue with that. And it will be a difficult one, but I think if there's a political will, it can happen. The problem is the challenge of peace and security. If there's no security, there are conflicts. It will be difficult to build infrastructure, because in no time that infrastructure is going to be destroyed, but also the security risk. But we've seen some regions are already doing well. I mean, the Horn of Africa, the rail and the road infrastructure there. And then with SADC as well, it's not so bad. When we talk about the challenge at Beitbridge, the challenge at Beitbridge is that many goods, go through Beitbridge from the continent. You find a situation where countries on the continent have ordered stuff overseas. They use the Durban port. And you have to take these goods up north or central or west via the road. And that is why you see this traffic of trucks. It's not the Zimbabweans on those trucks. It's people from different countries and with lots of goods in those trucks. And therefore, that is why Zimbabwe and South Africa must ensure that we have a one-stop shop in Beitbridge so that you don't hold the movement of goods, people, and services at Beitbridge. And these are the things that you'll have to improve.
Yeah, an exciting prospect, but like you say, still a lot of work to be done. Sophie Mokoena there, she's our foreign editor here at SABC.